Hey everyone, Leo Kelly G, and if you're watching this video, you've probably reached that point where all guitarists start trembling in their boots the day you have to change your strings. Now I'm gonna guess there's probably 3 reasons that your guitar strings need to be changed. Number 1, you can get your guitar in tune, but when you play certain chords, they sound a little bit off. The reason for this is the more you play a set of strings, the more their undersides come into contact with the frets on the neck of the guitar, which means they don't hold their tune as well as they do when they're brand new. And so changing your strings regularly is a good way to keep your guitar sounding in tune. Number 2, you're playing the same as you always do, but something just sounds a bit off. The reason for this is kind of gross, but over time, as you play the guitar, some of the skin on your fingers comes off onto the strings, which can leave them feeling a bit dirty and sounding a bit dull, as they can't vibrate as easily when they're covered in dirt and, fingers. And so changing your strings will not only help your guitar feel better, but sound better as well. Number 3, you've broken a string and you don't really fancy being confused with a bassist. I completely empathize and I wouldn't want that either. I'm kidding of course, but guitars do have 6 strings, and so if you break one, you might as well replace it so you can play 6 strings again. Today, I'm going to show you how you can change the strings on your acoustic guitar so you can keep it looking, feeling, and sounding great. Let's get into it. Before we start, however, about half the people who watch these videos aren't subscribed. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and so if you fall into that 50%, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Also drop a like on the video and leave a comment, as it only takes a second and it makes a massive difference. Now that's out of the way, let's change those strings. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you're restringing your guitar is obviously to take the old strings off. Now if you've got a string cutter, you can obviously use that, but what I find is quite useful in terms of at least not having the strings in different pieces and having them falling over the floor where you can't see them, is actually just to unwind the strings so that you can tie them all up and then put them in the bin without having to collect all the pieces off the floor that you can't find. So that's the first thing we'll do. I just realised halfway through unwinding the strings, I could have used the string unwinder to unwind the strings as well, but I've come this far and so I might as well just carry on with my hands. So when you're taking the tuning pegs out of the other end of the guitar, this tool's actually got a little extension on the end to get the tuning pegs out. If you haven't got a tool like this, which I didn't for quite a long time, a kitchen spoon works perfectly well. And with the spoon, you literally just dig it in to the tuning peg underneath. Don't dig it into the tuning peg, dig it in underneath the tuning peg, and then you can just lever out the peg like that nice and easily. So this is the advantage of having all the strings not cut into pieces. You can just tie them in a loop as many times as you want, and then it's nice and easy to keep them all in one place, and then when you put them away, you haven't got to go searching around the carpet trying to find everything else. So now that you've got the strings and the frets out, if you're anything like me and you've got fingers that just disintegrate all over the instrument, you probably need to clean the fretboard next. Now the best thing to use is probably lem oil, which you can just get hold of in most guitar shops or order online. Keeps the neck in nice, good condition, and also gets rid of all the dirt and stuff as well to keep your instrument in good working order. So the next thing to do is to clean the instrument. It's crazy when people say that blood, sweat and tears go into things. I don't know how much blood and sweat's gone into my guitar, but in terms of skin, I must have lost a good few fingers worth over my playing career so far. These ones always take longer to clean. As Chet Atkins says, there's no money past the 5th fret of the guitar, and in terms of my playing, that definitely seems to be true. Most of the dirt and skin is definitely up on the higher frets. Not essential, but you can give the rest of the instrument a bit of a wipe down as well, just to get all the crap off of it. So now the frets are nice and clean, it's time to put the strings back on again. In terms of strings, it's very much down to personal preference. I tend to use 12 gauge strings on my guitar, and I also tend to use strings that are coated with something just so they last a bit longer. As I said, my fingers tend to sweat quite a lot, and so if I haven't got a set of strings that are coated, I tend to go through them quite quickly, and so with coated strings, they just last a bit longer and you get a bit better value for money. So when you're putting the strings back in again, it really depends on the kind of saddle you've got as to how you put them in. This saddle tends to come out, and so it's not stuck down, but it doesn't really respond to the pressure of having strings in either way, and so I can put the strings and tighten them one at a time. But if you've got a saddle where, or a nut in fact, on the other end of the guitar, where if you put one string in one side and too many strings on one side, it's going to fly off. Then if you put the strings in from the outside in or from the inside out, it'll keep the pressure roughly equal, so you haven't got your nut flying off all over the place, or the saddle on the other end. So when you put the string into the hole and you push the tuning peg in, make sure to give the string a little pull so it gets the string nice and snug, and when you're tightening the string, it'll stop it making that pinging noise when it gets tight, and then it slips out and actually fits into place. So in order to get the right amount of slack on the string, I'll pull the string taut first through the hole, then I'll grab it by the nut, and then depending on the string and how thick it is, I want it to wind around the tuning peg about 3 times so it'll hold itself in place. And so for the lower strings, I'll pull it down to about the 2nd fret to give it enough slack, and then for the higher strings, I'll pull it a little bit further. As soon as you've got enough slack, bend the string upwards at a right angle, and then from there, make sure you're holding the string in place with your finger and also pushing it down. And this is where the winder comes in handy to make sure the winding process is a little bit quicker. You can do it by hand, but it takes a heck of a lot longer. And so if you've got a winder, it just speeds the process up. And so as I'm winding, I'm making sure that the winds of the string are going underneath where the bend in the string is at a right angle at the top, so that you start winding it down underneath the string each time. And then as the coils go around, they should then start to hold the string in place because the tension of the string holds against the little grooves, and so it holds it in place. And so once it gets tight, it holds its tune quite nicely, and then it's less likely to go out of tune later on. So as you can see on the first string, I've left enough slack to give it about 3 winds, which will hold the string in place nicely, pulling it down and then keeping it in tune when all the other strings are there as well. That's 1 down, 5 more to go. So once you've got your guitar strings nice and tightened up, unless you're a fan of that Kurt Cobain acoustic look and you want the strings ripping your guitar case apart, clip the tops off to keep them nice and tidy and to keep your guitar case in good working order as well. So now the strings are on and the ends are clipped, it's time to get the guitar in tune. I tend to use the Clear Tune app. Any tuner that's got a reasonable degree of accuracy will get your strings in tune, no problem. So now you've got the strings in tune, the next thing to do is to stretch the strings and retune them. Stretch and retune to make sure the guitar holds its tune better over time and also doesn't go out of tune the first time you step up to a gig with a newly tuned guitar. And so I've got my E, and then if I stretch it, a little bit in the middle, a little bit at one end, a little bit at the other end, play it again, you can hear it's quite a bit lower. So I'll tighten it up again, and I'll stretch it again. And it also means that if there's any slack near the tuning peg, or any slack anywhere on the string, then that'll get it all out. Flat again. And so then when you come to play it, it will hold its tune really, really nicely. So that's 1 down, 5 more to stretch and get in tune. Here we go. Just a quick disclaimer for the higher strings, don't pull them as hard as the lower strings because they've got a higher tendency to snap. I've done that quite a few times and I've had to buy a whole new set of strings, which is really, really annoying. So now you've got all the strings pulled and in tune, give them one last tune to make sure they're all in tune with each other. If you want some advice about how to tune your guitar, I've got a video that should pop up right about here, which has got some really handy tips about how to get your guitar in tune and how to keep it that way as well. Once you've got the guitar in tune, play a few different chords to make sure the guitar resonates in the way you want it to. Should be good to go. So that was my video on how to change the strings on your acoustic guitar. If you found it useful, it would mean the world if you could give this video a like, subscribe to the channel and push the notification bell so you stay up to date with any new videos that come out. And if you're feeling really generous, head over to www.patreon.com/LKGguitar and consider becoming a patron, where you can contribute to me making even more content to help you along your musical journey to becoming the best musician you can be. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.